After 9 years away from our screens, the Doctor's back, and he's better than ever.
The Doctor's in love with life.
This has been our lives for 8 months.
Give me some spot. For what? Would it kill you? Stitch this, mate.
I heard they were doing a new series of Doctor Who, but never ever thought that I would be involved.
The Ultimate Guide takes you back to see just what it took to bring Doctor Who into the 21st century.
Fantastic.
Back. I can't quite believe he's actually back.
I think he's an alien from another world.
Ready for this? Here we go. History.
I came back to the BBC as head of drama at BBC Wales, and it was my first meeting with Jane, the drama commissioner, and she just came out with it and said, how would you feel about bringing back Doctor Who?
I read in the newspaper that Russell was going to write Doctor Who, and it was really intriguing to me.
We did have loads of people that we were thinking about, but Chris was always in our heads.
I would never approach Chris Eccleston in a million years, I don't think. I wouldn't have thought he would be interested.
And I like the idea of a writer as intelligent and rigorous as Russell writing for children. Because I think, you know, if you can get them young with good stuff, as they grow older, they're going to demand good stuff of their television.
We just wanted someone who would be a brilliant actor and would surprise the audience and not be a predictable choice.
And then I got an email off him. We'd literally been out for a jog, and he said, I've been thinking about Doctor Who, and, you know, if you don't mind, can I put myself on the list?
I'm the Doctor, by the way. What's your name?
Rose.
Nice to meet you, Rose. Run for your life.
The Doctor is a legend woven throughout history. When disaster comes, he's there.
You tell me, where do you want to go? Backwards or forwards in time?
Filming started in July 2004, and head writer Russell T Davies was there from the start.
The new series, really, we wanted to be everything the old series was, with a great big watch of 2005 shoved into it as well, because I genuinely love the old series. Tonight is our first proper night shoot in London, and it's very early on in the run now. We're only sort of 5 days in. We've done 5 days in Cardiff. Now we're in London, and we're doing the big London stuff, which includes the London Eye. Whenever we come here, we want to sort of maximise it so you get all the big locations, all the big touristy type settings in the background. With someone like Chris as an actor playing the Doctor, he's such a fine actor. He's going to bring completely new qualities to it, a new alienness, a new energy, the way he walks, the way he dresses, everything. There's a brand new Chris Eccleston Doctor, and there's a whole generation of kids for whom that's going to be their definitive Doctor.
He's got the grinning madness of Tom, but he's got the sort of vulnerability of Peter Davison.
It's like when you're a kid. The first time they tell you that the world's turning and you just can't quite believe it because everything looks like it's standing still. I can feel it.
And a little bit of that excitedness that Paul McGann brought to it.
The turn of the Earth. The ground beneath our feet is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and the entire planet is hurtling round the sun at 67,000 miles an hour, and I can feel it. We're falling through space, you and me. Clinging to the skin of this tiny little world, and if we let go, that's who I am.
So in a way, you can see the other Doctors in him somewhere. He's a very modern Doctor, I think.
To bring the Doctor back in style, he had to look the part.
I mean, Chris's costume is very stripped down, which very much suits his Doctor. He wants the acting to come forward and be at the centre of it. And actually, if you look back, that's sort of quite a 2000. Doctor's always had a sort of aspect of the age about him. Colin Baker was massively colourful, and you look at the 80s and you think, my God, that was a colourful time. In the 60s, it was much more sort of patrician with capes and stuff like that. So the Doctor's always fitted his age, really.
Russell had scripted a leather jacket.
Really battered. Battered leather jacket, so you get the traveller thing.
Yeah, so we tried loads and loads on, didn't we?
Yeah, it's so long back, long
Even
ago
had
now,
one made, and do you remember? Put it on, and it was hideous, so I ripped it off. Do you remember when we started again? It was too new, wasn't it? I didn't want the costume to ever become an object where you used to think, oh, what's he wearing today? It had to be a silhouette that you were very used to, and when he's against all the other aliens, from the back or from the side, you always know it's him. His clothes shouldn't really dominate his role, they should help. So the thought of having a leather jacket is always a good bonus because it would give that appearance of an action man.
As Chris enters the Doctor's Hall of Fame, he joins an elite band of illustrious Time Lords.
How do you do, sir? I'm the Doctor.
Don't call me Doc. Now, do I make myself clear?
I think I always knew there was a good chance Doctor would come back. There's still an audience, an enormous audience out there.
Eureka!
I'm the Doctor.
Would think up a crazy notion like this? I don't know.
Nothing has been quite like it.
Fantastic mind.
He was somebody who had two hearts and a body temperature radically different from yours and mine.
You don't happen to have an elephant gun, do you?
You know, I think since his regeneration, he's become decidedly immature.
He's an alien from Gallifrey.
He's been around for 900 years.
You're a very brave man, and only doing what has to be done.
He's a kind of an old-fashioned hero in a way.
Seems to laugh at danger, but is still very, very caring.
I'll have to link in my own cerebral cortex. That's the only thing.
That is highly dangerous.
I know. 2 more leads, Logan.
He's also a bit of a rebel, the black sheep of the family.
I'm always intrigued by people who have secrets.
He is wildly eccentric.
You'll see him confront a bad situation, he'll make a joke about it, he'll lighten the mood.
Would you care for a jelly, baby?
His specialist subject is the human race.
It may be irrational of me, but human beings are quite my favourite species.
Hold tight, everyone.
He's a tremendous optimist and he sees the positive, always. The nice thing about playing him is that he cares.
And it's not just the Doctor who's had an upgrade.
Welcome to the TARDIS.
Much bigger on the inside.
One of the key boxes that people wanted to see ticked was what was the TARDIS going to look like and how was it going to appear and disappear. So we very quickly realised it was going to be a police box again, which is fantastic. I think Russell wanted to keep things very close to the classic series, so we produced a few tests and everyone chose the one they liked the most, you know, for the first episode. However, it became apparent that the TARDIS appearing and disappearing in each episode might require its own effect to sit it in whatever scene or time and place it was going to be arriving in. So if it's got snow, like in episode 3, there's a lovely little layer of snow on the windowsill that when it disappears, the little flakes just fall to the air. If it lands, you know, amongst a sea of litter on a council estate and things are blown around a bit, it's an extra layer of adding believability to what's going on. So it's just subtly different every time.
And the inside of the TARDIS is bigger and better than ever.
The TARDIS has changed over the years so many times, so I wanted to make it feel as if it had arrived at this juncture in history. So we looked mostly to nature, to organic structures. Things like coral were quite a nice idea, so the main metal structure of the TARDIS has been covered in this coral type effect. So you've got a range of ceramic, glass, wood, metal. It's all sort of living things, really. We've got some Gallifreyan text, which spells out all the different information that's relevant to flying the TARDIS. Because the TARDIS is nigh on 700 years old, it's really made up of an amalgamation of lots of bits and pieces. There's very few of the original switches on it anymore, so it's what the Doctor's cobbled together over the years, which are all relevant to making the beast fly.
So what are you doing down there?
Ricky.
Mickey.
Ricky.
If I was to tell you what I was doing to the controls of my frankly magnificent time ship, would you even begin to understand?
I suppose not.
Well, shut it then.
That TARDIS that we see is actually supposed to be manned by 6 or 7 Time Lords, and he does it all on his own, hence his energy and his chaos.
Hold that one down!
I'm holding this one down!
Well, hold them both down!
Oof, it's not gonna work!
Oi, I promise you a time machine, and that's what you get.
The TARDIS gets it wrong, and and the Doctor gets it wrong occasionally, but they stick together through and through, and he'd never chop that thing in for the, you know, a new model.
There's a wardrobe through there. First left, second right, third on the left, go straight ahead, under the stairs, past the bins, fifth door on your left. Hurry up!
With the makeover of the TARDIS complete, there was one last piece of equipment the Doctor needed.
I've lost my sonic screwdriver. I feel absolutely lost without it.
I found your sonic screwdriver.
What would I do without you?
The sonic screwdriver is like a little kind of pen-shaped thing with a little pointy bit at the top that you could point at a lock and, hey presto, the lock was open.
Locked? Yes. No, we're trapped. Never.
When Patrick Troughton first got that device out, right, he could have said this is a gravitic anomalizer, but he didn't. He said it's a sonic screwdriver. Both those words are really understandable, and that's why it's lasted, because it's so beautifully simple.
No one knows how the sonic screwdriver works, or really indeed what it does. It just seems to do everything.
Steady on, Doc.
At one point in the Ark in Space, which is an episode I remember really well, he actually unscrews something with it, which is hilarious, because it is a screwdriver after all. Just proving that it is actually usable as a screwdriver, as well as something sonic.
Well, if you haven't noticed by now, it's back, and it's fully recharged.
Charging up.
You want villains to get in his way, you want motives to get in his way, you want great big chasms like on Platform 1 to get in his way, but you don't want a door to get in his way. It's the most unimportant thing of all.
I think the design of it's fantastic, and in a way it is of the TARDIS. You know, if you look at that, it's quite similar to the central column of the TARDIS, and it's of the TARDIS, and possibly has similar unlooked-for qualities.
We went through hundreds of concept drawings, introducing various finishes and colours, but we soon ended up with a very clinical design, porcelain base, cracked over the years, and something that really was the Doctor's tool that could do everything.
And it's quite endearing that he didn't make himself a sonic atomic bomb or a sonic machine gun. He made himself a sonic screwdriver.
Who has a sonic screwdriver?
I do.
Lights.
Who looks at a screwdriver and thinks, ooh, this could be a little more sonic?
What, you never been bored?
There's got to be a light switch.
Never had a long night? Never had a lot of cabinets to put up?
Once you've got that device, I think you can actually have a bit of a laugh with it and use it for all sorts of functions, really. I mean, Stephen Moffat has it repairing barbed wire, it opens doors, obviously, it does medical scans on people.
Conclusions. Massive head trauma, mostly to the left side. Partial collapse of the chest cavity, mostly to the right.
I think all of that's fine, so long as the sonic screwdriver never solves the plot in the end.
What do I do?
Flick the switch!
And there's one other companion the Doctor couldn't do without.
He's 900 years old, she's 19, yet they think alike. She's so astute and so kind of inquisitive that she spots things.
Plastic.
Very clever, nice trick. Who were they then? Students?
Why would they be students?
Because to get that many people dressed up and being silly, they got to be students.
That makes sense. Well done.
Thanks. And that's what he loves about her, and that's what she loves about him. They are just partners in crime through and through. But she's not scared to challenge him equally, you know. Your machine gets inside my head. It gets inside and it changes my mind, and you didn't even ask. She's a pretty ballsy woman, you know. She's gutsy. A lot more gutsy than I am.
And I want you home by midnight.
The companion, I think, is your way in to the story, is your way into science fiction, is your point of view, is the person going, oh my God, there's no such thing as monsters, oh, there's no such thing. And also, because we wanted a more emotional series than perhaps Doctor Who was famous for in the past, someone who will find the joy in seeing alien landscapes. In the old days, it was travel or nothing. With the Doctor, you'd sort of get on board the TARDIS, and that's it, you were gone. And now I don't believe you'd watch a series without asking the basic common sense questions of, like, well, don't her family miss her? Is she gone missing? Who loves her? Who's left behind?
It's not 12 hours, it's 12 months.
You've been gone a whole year. Sorry.
There's implications of someone disappearing. Do you know what I mean? This is the age of CCTV everywhere. There's implications of someone being gone for more than a day before alerts start, you know, happening.
I was going to come and see you.
Someone owes Mickey an apology.
I'm sorry.
I think they kept her coming back because it was to show how it affected her mother and her boyfriend.
You left me!
We were nice. We were happy. And then what, you give me a kiss and you run off with him and you make me feel like nothing, Rose. I was nothing.
You've got Mickey, who's very much a victim of the Doctor's lifestyle. The Doctor takes Rose in and out of Mickey's life, and, you know, and there's a selfishness to the brilliance of being a time traveller, actually. They do what they want.
Off we go! Into time and space!
Oh, my God. Have you seen yourselves? You all think you're so clever, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah!
Yep.
Episode 11, there's a chance to look at people like Mickey, who were the victims of that lifestyle.
Here we are in Cardiff Bay. It is freezing. Basically, what we're doing now, we're doing a scene where Rose and Mickey have like sort of a bust up because they've, you know, she's been away and stuff like that, and you know, he's not too happy about it. Are we on? I'm on, man. Sorry, what can I say, man? Go away. It's the money shot here. This is what pays the bills.
185, take 2, camera only.
Action.
The Doctor took me to this planet a while back, much colder than this. They called it Woman Wept. The planet was actually called Woman Wept because if you looked at it right from above, there's like this huge continent all curved round. It looked a bit like a woman sort of lamenting.
Mickey's entirely blameless in the way he's lived his life, and he suffers because of a Time Lord whizzing in and out of affairs.
We're all powered up. We can leave. How's Mickey?
He's okay, he's gone.
Do you want to go and find him? We'll wait.
No need. He deserves better.
Off we go then. Always moving on.
That's what Rose has got. She's got a dramatic surround. Lovely boyfriend, funny mother, sad history with her father. That becomes her own mythology to match the Doctor's mythology.
Who's that? It's your daddy.
When I go back to meet my father, I found that script, you know, so compelling and so emotional and sad. I think it's one of her toughest journey to date, but also one of the most rewarding.
Go to him. Quick.
I think it's something we can all relate to, that thing of going back and all the what-ifs. You know, what if this happened, what if that happened, what if they didn't say that, or I didn't do that, and all those kind of questions that, you know, imagine that if you could change them.
The fact that the Doctor is willing to take Rose back to watch her dad being killed does show that he's not the same as us. He doesn't think in the same way that human beings think, and probably doesn't realise what an absolutely massive emotional deal that will be for Rose.
Oh my God, look at you, you're alive. That car was going to kill you.
Give me some credit, I can see it coming.
So you have to think, well, if you thought about it a bit more carefully, you might have realised it might have been better to take her to the seaside or to Alton Towers, rather than to watch her dad be run over by a car again and again and again.
The Doctor cares about humanity and other races generally, but he's not great one-on-one. He avoids one-on-one situations.
Are you going to stay here now?
I don't know. Can't do that to her again, though.
Well, she's not coming with us.
He doesn't want to get into all that messy area of feelings, and he has huge feelings for the world, but domestic. He doesn't like domestic. He doesn't do domestic.
And another thing the Doctor doesn't do is guns.
Clear the floor. He's on his way up here. With a gun.
I knew there was a big war on the way, and frankly, for war, you need soldiers.
Don't shoot! Oh, don't be so thick. Like I was ever going to shoot.
Because I'm still not happy with the thought, particularly of Rose picking up a gun and shooting people. The Doctor would never do that.
Attaboy. Got myself a gun.
That's why Jack was absolutely essential to build him up as a soldier, and a very happy soldier as well.
I'm having the time of my life coming in here and playing, being paid to play, you know, being paid to be somebody else, to play with, you know, guns and electronic stuff and all this zhush. It's just fantastic.
Nice glass pattern.
Digital.
Squareness gun.
Yeah.
I like it.
But it's not all fun and games. For the last 10 months, an award-winning cast and crew has been assembled in BBC Wales. They had 13 episodes to make, a budget of millions, some of the UK's best scriptwriters and directors, and the responsibility of bringing back one of Britain's favourite heroes. The production team had a battle on their hands when writer Stephen Moffat challenged them to recreate the London Blitz.
As soon as the scripts are there and we've broken down into a schedule, we go to a tone meeting, which is the first time where the design team, the CGI team, makeup, costume come together, and we talk about what is at the heart of the episode.
Every scene is night. It's a blackout. But I also think we've got to think about bursts of colour and energy in the middle of all that.
It's a great episode to look at effects because there's a remarkable number of physical effects that have post-production effects added. I mean, particularly things like Rose flying over London was extraordinarily difficult to do.
I remember these 2 episodes landing on my desk. You know, on page 4, Rose flies across London on a barrage balloon during a Blitz air raid. It's a really easy thing for Stephen to have typed, and it's even easier to read, but to try and translate into reality is a nightmare.
I assumed I'd be reined in, and I have to say, they did not rein me in. They let me do whatever I like.
OK, now meantime, Rose is climbing up the cable. I'm assuming what we've got here is a fire escape that takes you to the top of a roof, and then there is another bit which she couldn't otherwise access but for this cable. Okay, yeah. We can then, on location, get her up to that, and then maybe find another location for the last bit of the climb, which might make it a bit more controllable.
To be lower down,
yes. Which brings me to barrage balloons.
The problem with the difficulty of like Rose flying over London is that you're talking about 360-degree effects.
The CGI team's feeling is that doing it against a green screen and somehow moving her or moving the background is going to look considerably pony.
She could have been completely in a studio and against green screen.
She's got to be hanging there, for real.
What I like is a certain shot, she's actually in the open air.
It's on a very cheap hill just outside Cardiff somewhere. And then what you have is you have her against a night sky. Green screen on the floor, onto which you can put anything you might choose.
Very nice.
Yeah, practical smoke. Yeah. Practical couple of searchlights, even, so that what you get are some of the textures and effects on her and the close-ups.
There is a real wind blowing on her. You can see real bits of rain caught in the spotlight. The whole picture is a different texture because of that.
How much has the mill got to do? How much have you guys got to do?
I'm not worried about what we've got to do. I'm just worried about Rose hanging on a hillside in the cold, in a t-shirt.
In December.
In December. You know, that purely that, really. It's not.
Yeah, me too.
She's not very high up, but she's more high up than I would care to be. So there's a real drop, there's a real physical danger. And then the mill come along and add the CGI London and the view of the streets and the beautiful painted romantic shots of London at night.
The main problem is getting reference for top shots of London. And we've employed a technique, photogrammetry. Basically what we've done is taken a top shot reference of London. We've then, in the computer, created the geometry for the buildings so that there's this kind of rough and crude 3D model. We've then had a starting matte painting and an end matte painting, and to project the picture onto the geometry of London, which means we can move the camera.
Recreating history was hard enough. Inventing the future was a whole new challenge.
This is the day.
Hold on.
The largest episode is episode 2. Where there are 203 visual effects shots, which is enormous. We have 8 weeks to create 203 shots. We're virtually creating a feature film a month. Gladiator, for example, there are about 100 effect shots, and that took 9 months. I'm very fond of the spiders in episode 2 and of the exterior sort of space station shots that help tell the story. Help keep that feeling of being in space and moving from one area of the space station to another. I think that worked really well.
Shuttles 5 and 6 now docking.
Earth death is scheduled for 1539.
There's a scene set in the space station's ventilation chamber, and the Doctor has to get from one side of a walkway to another to turn off a switch to save the day.
Oh. And guess where the switch is?
You can only create something like that these days in CGI. So you have a partial set with lots of green screen where the Doctor is physically on the walkway. And this then gets shrunk down and put into a painting, effectively.
Acting to green screens, imagining it's just like being a kid again, and I enjoy the challenge if I'm supposed to be speaking to a 6'2" alien and in fact I'm speaking to a yard brush. If I can pull that off, then that's what I did all those years training for, and it's all acting and it's all good.
Heat levels rising.
What we've done in this series was, yeah, you have extraordinary looking creations like Jabe, played by Yasmin, but also they've got fantastic character. They've got a story to tell.
I don't want to call us monsters because we're not monstrous. We are just different. I feel like I've got a crown. I'm having my crown of flowers on now, and I've got a brilliant costume. It's like a robe. It's a beautiful, beautiful dress with lots of corseting. And that immediately gives you the posture of this. She's a queen-like figure, I think. And so as soon as you step into that, and with all of this, you're the part instantly.
So what time did you come in?
7. Well, we managed to eat breakfast as we're going.
Right. That's always a bonus.
Yeah, that's always the cool thing is we
So you are on solids?
Yes, they let me eat solid food. It's not just soup or blenders and stuff. They did threaten at one point.
Oh, boys.
Yeah, we're not on
baby bio.
But as the series progresses, the monsters get more and more terrifying.
Welcome to the weakest link.
It always takes a bit of time to get used to a new suit and start, and know and to learn what you can and can't do.
It takes about an hour to get them into the costume alone. The whole thing is like armour, it goes on, bolts in places, lots of screws, and once they're in, it is quite restricting.
I feel like the Tin Man.
Sometimes that kind of movement you get that's the only way they can move.
Whoa! Oh, I can't get at it.
I love the face of the android is silver. It's silver like you expect sort of science fiction droids to be.
Welcome to the weakest link.
Somebody just played the voice of Anne Robinson in the background, doing the questions, and suddenly, the fear, the adrenaline starts going through.
So, Rose, what do you actually do?
I just travel about a bit of a tourist, I suppose.
Another way of saying unemployed.
No.
Have you got a job?
Well, not really, no. But...
Then you are unemployed, and yet you still got enough money to buy peroxide.
We thought we would have to get somebody to imitate her voice because I couldn't imagine she would appreciate quite how terrifying the satire was, but she absolutely loved it.
Me and Phil went along, we were like kids, we'd go, oh my God, it's Anne Robinson. I was a bit scared. We're calling her Miss Robinson. We were very, very polite. She must have thought we'd stepped out of the 1950s. Oh, something. Nice to meet you, Miss Robinson.
Oh, God, help me! You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Add a pinch of evil genius, and the whole recipe for disaster is complete.
The president is 10 points down. I want him replaced. I don't think that's very wise, sir. Thank you so much for your opinion. You're fired. Get rid of him.
In every episode, the Doctor meets another genius with an ego as big as his.
I'm the Doctor, and who are you? Like you don't know.
There's always kind of a standoff, basically, and it's usually a blokey standoff.
So you're just about an expert in everything except the things in your museum. Anything you don't understand, you lock up.
And you claim greater knowledge?
I don't need to make claims. I know how good I am.
And yet I captured you.
Blimey, you can smell the testosterone.
His office, 53 floors below the ground, is a metaphor for who he is. He can't aspire to heaven. He can't aspire to greatness. So he tries to bring greatness down to his level or below.
I wanted to touch the stars! You just want to drag the stars down and stick them underground underneath tons of sand and dirt and label them.
You're about as far from the stars as you can get!
There's been some great acting in the show. Here's a perfect example.
It's just a matter of emphasis. The right word in the right broadcast repeated often enough can destabilize an economy, invent an enemy, change a vote.
So all the people on Earth are like slaves?
Well, now, there's an interesting point. Is a slave a slave? If he doesn't know, he's enslaved. I'm playing an evil genius in Doctor Who. How cool is that?
Her information's been tampered with. There's a second biography hidden underneath.
Yes, sir. He's a banker. He's an accountant. He's the scum of the earth. And he's working for this piece of meat sort of creature called the Jagrafess, which lives in the ceiling. I'm the sort of the human go-between, and the Jagrafess is controlling humanity. So he's employed me to just convince them all to keep small and make them think that they're running the universe. I'm the horrible turncoat that that's kind of doing his dirty work. The whole thing is really about the way the media can manipulate culture.
I get it. You broadcast the news.
We are the news. We're the journalists. We write it, package it and sell it. 600 channels, all coming out of Satellite 5, broadcasting everywhere.
Something is wrong. Something fictional.
It feels a lot like the show's grown up, but without losing any of its original charm, so I'm very excited for this, you know.
There's the truth!
The problem is, in Doctor Who, almost all evil geniuses are failures because they're coming up against the Doctor, you know. They might have had 20 years of evil genius success, but as soon as the TARDIS lands, they're sunk.
See you in headlines!
I think probably for all evil geniuses, the note is you think your plans through before the TARDIS arrives, otherwise you haven't got a chance.
And with defeat comes death, always a big part of Doctor Who. And the new series is no exception.
Thank you all for wearing your ID cards. They'll help to identify the bodies.
Whether long-range weapon or to retire from a wicked mind is a weapon of mass destruction. Whether your celebration or BBC One misinformation is a weapon of mass destruction. You could have Caucasian or Asian. Racism is a weapon of mass destruction. Whether inflation or globalization, fear is a weapon of mass destruction. God came into my room holding his hat. I knew he was leaving inside my bed to read some facts, son. How could you keep calling on me? Even your sister got brave, my little soldier. And don't forget all I told you. You're the mister of the house, now remember this. And when you wake up in the morning, give your mama a kiss. Then I had to say goodbye.
I think what makes it uniquely scary as a programme is that it's steeped in death. It's like the body count in the history of Doctor Who is extraordinary. It's a slaughterhouse. And I'm actually, when I write them now, I will sit there and go, ooh, 20 pages, no one's died. I better put a death in like that. So for all that life and energy it's got, it's a very dark world.
It's a rare programme in that it always faces the consequences of death, especially in the new series.
Sorry. I like the idea of this character going out at 7 o'clock because he's not cosy for kids. He's not comfortable. The series doesn't duck that there are difficult decisions to be made in life.
According to the statutes of government, the moment I return, I am to be executed. What do you make of that, Doctor? Take me home and you take me to my death.
Not my problem.
In episode 11, the whole point of the episode is to get to those scenes in the restaurant where the Doctor sits down with an enemy who he's defeated, and they get to talk to each other and they explore the consequences of the Doctor's actions.
Public execution's a slow death. They prepare a thin acetic acid, lower me into the cauldron, and boil me. The acidity is perfectly gauged to strip away the skin. Internal organs fall out into the liquid, and I become soup, and still alive, still screaming.
I don't make the law.
But you deliver it.
And the real story in this is who the Doctor is and what gives him the right to live this lifestyle and what happens afterwards. And inevitably we have to look at that and sort of say, actually, as part of saving the world, part of that probably involved a good few deaths.
Sorry.
We all love the Doctor, and for all his strength, it takes an incredible strength that he moves through the universe as a massive moral force, an unbending, unflinching, unquestioning moral force, who will land in a situation and decide whether he's right or whether he's wrong. I mean, dramatically, he is always right, as it happens, but that's a terrible load to bear, and that I think dictates his lifestyle, this itinerant, ever-moving lifestyle where he does not stay around and wait for the consequences.
We're just going to go. I hate tidying up. Too many questions. You'll manage.
We'd have to stay and explain it. No one's going to believe me.
Well, they might start believing a lot of things now. Human race should accelerate. All back to normal.
But this time it's not so easy, and the Doctor is dragged back to face the results of his hurried exit.
This should be the fourth great and bountiful human empire. I don't understand. Last time I was here, I put it right.
No, but that's when it first went wrong. 100 years ago, like you said. All the news channels, they just shut down overnight.
But that was me. I did that.
There was nothing left in their place. No information. The whole planet just froze. The government, the economy, they collapsed. That was the start of it. 100 years of hell.
Oh, my.
The Doctor's carelessness has left the door open for the return of his biggest enemy.
I saw you fire.
After 40 years of death and destruction, the Daleks have returned to exterminate their mortal enemy.
They're spooky. They're scary. They want to take over the universe. What more can you ask for a monster?
The Daleks tapped in absolutely and utterly into our fears.
Every hero needs his Achilles heel. They do to him what kryptonite does to Superman.
Brainchild of the dastardly Davros, from their humble beginnings on the planet of Skaro, these faceless foes have exterminated, annihilated and elevated their way into the position of Doctor Who's enemy number one.
There's just nothing nice, there's nothing decent, there's nothing good about a Dalek. They are just so undefeatable. You can never see the last of them, and I guess that's always quite a frightening thought.
They're just killers. They're very functional. They're very brutal. It's hardwired into me that they are scary. It's a bit like asking, why is the dark scary? I don't know. It just is.
Colour was very important. We've added elements to them that I really feel make them a lot more chunky.
Oh my God.
I think we've done a sort of a Mini Cooper to the Dalek, and to make it look more powerful, to make it look as if it has got a lot more attitude. It really needed to look like a metal piece of kit that could really do some harm. You've got to believe that this thing can take over the Earth very easily.
You remember from watching it as a kid, and you know what's purpose the music in Doctor Who has to serve. They're basically to make you frightened. So your job as a composer is pretty clearly defined before you start.
Rose, no!
The Dalek episode is darker in tone, And again, because the Doctor's the main energy of this series, it's because he's a darker Doctor, because he's frightened.
Impossible.
Doctor! Exterminate! Exterminate! Let me out! Exterminate!
They expose a Doctor that we haven't seen before. He becomes unreasonable and he goes mad because he's frightened.
Your race is dead. You all burn, all of you. 10 million ships on fire. The entire Dalek race wiped out in 1 second.
You lie!
I watched it happen. I made it happen.
Of all the aliens he's met, he knows their power, and they are the ancient enemy of the Time Lords.
You destroyed us!
I had no choice.
And what of the Time Lords?
Dead. They burnt with you.
He's the last of the Time Lords. There was a time war. See, it just sounds good. The Time War, his planets, people were destroyed by the Daleks, by the greatest enemy in the universe. Really simple, bold, iconic mythology behind him, which we don't tap into much, but when we do, it becomes alive and sort of energises the character with the histories.
The end of the last great Time War. Everyone lost.
He feels himself to be the last of the Time Lords, and there's a dark secret there, which gives him a sadness, the fact that he has no home.
Little piece of home, better than nothing.
The Daleks survived. Maybe some of your people did too.
I know. In here. Feels like there's no one.
Having done a very personal Dalek story in episode 6, it's time to say, actually, all that stuff that I believe in my head I didn't need to see on screen, all your great big Dalek fleets, but now, in 2005, we actually have an opportunity to say, look, there are 200 Dalek spaceships. It was all to get everyone in place for the final climactic battle.
Alert, we are detected. It is the Doctor. He has located us. The stratagem must advance. Begin the invasion of Earth. The Doctor will be exterminated.
No.
War has just been declared. Get ready for the battle of a lifetime.
Explain yourself.
I said no.
But she will be destroyed.
No! Because this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna rescue her. I'm gonna save Rose Tyler from the middle of the Dalek fleet, and then I'm gonna save the Earth, and then, just to finish off, I'm gonna wipe every last stinking Dalek out of the sky!
Now that's what I call fighting talk. The battle of a lifetime next on BBC One in Doctor Who.
Then it can only mean danger, and I mean fatal.
Exterminate! I am the God